I'm Adrienne Enns, and I welcome you to the Intention Sessions podcast. I want to inspire our most intentional living. In each episode, we'll talk to remarkable individuals who will share their authentic journeys and their insights with us. They're going to remind us that life's complexities can be our greatest teachers, and that intentional living can be expressed in an infinite number of ways. I hope you find some inspiration for your most intentional life right here. Today on the podcast, I have Selene Wilkinson. Dr. Selene Wilkinson is the owner and one of the naturopathic doctors at Lemon Water Wellness Clinic. It's a vitamin IV lounge and also a general store. Selene is a certified IV therapist and doula and has an integrated approach to her practice. Her goal is to inspire people to get excited about living their truth and to live life to its fullest potential, which I love. She does this by incorporating a wide variety of treatment modalities such as nutrition, vitamin IV therapy, acupuncture, Asian medicine, botanical medicine, physical medicine, and lifestyle counseling. She is also a sought-after writer, speaker, and TV guest. She's often here sharing her wisdom on healthy living and environmental issues. Selene and I met because I collaborate with Lemon Water Wellness. It's this beautiful clinic and store in the historic distillery area of Toronto. So that's how we connected. And I've been following her work always, and especially now through the pandemic. And I just really wanted to have her on to talk to us about health and well-being, especially as we have our re-entry. So Selene, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me and that really kind introduction. I love what you're doing in the space and the forum and the cards that you make and your book, because intentions might be one of the most important part of our lives. You know, I believe that with the purpose and setting intentions, a lot of the anxiety and depression that I'm seeing a lot of lately in practice could be really minimized or even avoided. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. And so on that note, what have you been seeing in your practice over the last year or so? Like, is it the similar as usual?
Mm-hmm.
Is it heightened? Is it unusual? Like, what are you seeing firsthand?
It's been a very interesting year. So I'm really grateful that our business has really expanded, which is wonderful over COVID.
It's amazing.
It is. We have a lot of different types of practitioners, such as chiro and physio and nutrition and massage and all of these amazing healing modalities, which is great that they're growing. So I love that piece, but it also probably adds in, it means that people are looking for a lot more help and support with regard to their physical and their mental health. So a lot more depression and anxiety for sure. And on other notes, on a little more superficial, the weight gain piece, and also just neck injuries and back injuries from, people sitting at home in their desks working from home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All of those, I'm just like nodding. I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
All of it sounds true. And it's all what I hear as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's been a wonderful year, but obviously a very challenging year for many people. But I love what I do, and I love the medicine that I treat with. And a lot of it doesn't even have to be medicine. I mean, a lot of it has to do with people's mindset and really trying to shift that. And I'm loving watching people transform and hoping that after this is all said and done, people will have the tools to be able to deal with a lot of the things that we thought were big deals in our lives pre-COVID.
Yeah. So let's start with, I love the mindset piece, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be curious, like in terms of intentional living, like what intention setting means to you and in your own words and in your practice, and then how you communicate this to your patients.
So I use something that I have found to be helpful, and I look at it like 5 pillars of health. So, what are we eating? What are we drinking? What are we thinking about? How are we resting? And how are we recharging? So, when I work with patients, I really talk about those 5 areas and go through them all and figure out in what way, what resonates with people, because I really need people, it's a more of a discussion. So I need people to be able to comply with how I work with them. But one thing that I really find important, and I think a lot of people, who have been very successful do this, is that what you do when you first wake up.
Yes.
So that first, you can even call it 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, but it's about really setting an intention for the day. And one thing is not reaching for the phone.
Yes. I always tell people, and I'm like, you teach what you need to learn, right? Because I was like, you just want to do it. And it's so not good for you.
No, it's not, unless you're, writing down and journaling on your phone. But even
Yeah.
pen to paper is so much better, and it just it solidifies things much more. So really, the first thing I start with is, what are you doing in the first 10 minutes of your day? Thinking about meditation, even if it's 5 minutes. And I know everyone's at different levels with it, but it doesn't have to be this dramatic, sitting and really kind of going extremely deep. It can just be a moment where you can just gather your thoughts and set intention for the day. And also your breathing, really working on your breathing, which it's the first thing we do in this
Yeah.
life, and it's the last thing we do in this life. But somehow in the middle, we tend to not give it the attention that it deserves. And when you go into your breathing, I think, when you see a naturopath or some kind of a physician that is looking to help you heal, you think, oh, it's all about the calming of the system. And it is, but it's actually physiologically, when you're doing your deep breathing, it's affecting your vagus nerve, which then will send a message to set in your parasympathetic nervous system. So it actually really does relax you. It's not just about getting oxygen throughout your body. So that first 10 minutes is really, really important in setting an intention for the day and really creating your day, as opposed to letting things happen to you throughout the day. Creating, how do I want this day to play out? What do I have ahead of me, and how am I going to make this day as amazing as I possibly can? And what lives can I impact, even if it means smiling at somebody or sending somebody an email? And those are the things that really matter in that first little beginning few moments of your day. I think we've all been there, where you sort of start your day and then it starts out poorly and then it just kind of snowballs from there. But what about the reverse, where you start out from a really great place and then it just becomes this amazing day where you can accomplish a lot?
Well, you're singing my song. I'm just like, yes, 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 yes.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody who's listening, and I know I was in this situation years ago, when you talk about breathing, they're like, okay, so, but what do I actually do? So, in those
Mm-hmm.
first 10 minutes, if somebody was even just going to take a couple of minutes to breathe mindfully, could you walk us through that?
Absolutely. So if you are still in bed, which hopefully you are, you're using that time to the best of your advantage, you can just lightly put your hand on your belly and you can inhale. And as you inhale, you want your belly to expand, and you want to actually feel that. And then you can visualize, I don't know if you know about just sort of a box. And so you're inhaling for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and waiting for 4. And if you did that for even just 3 minutes, you're setting off that parasympathetic nervous system. And you're also making your diaphragm go lower so that your lungs can expand and really oxygenate your body and have nutrients moving throughout it. So it's just a really beautiful exercise to go through at the beginning of the day.
It's amazing. And then I would imagine that, once you get familiar with this, it's a great practice to return to throughout the day whenever you maybe are feeling anxious or you just need to ground or recenter. You can just keep coming back to it.
Yes, thank you for saying that. And I think that, as one of the 4 pillars that in my resting phase, or that's also in the beginning, that everybody needs to do, I think that we really need to reframe what productivity means. So people think that racing around and I've got my list and I'm crossing it off and I'm having this amazingly productive day. But what if that breathing exercise was part of the productive part of that day, and the resting and the sleep? I think that if we reframe that, it will look a lot different than sort of it just kind of being lazy and thinking about all the other things you have to be doing.
I absolutely love that. I've been reading and listening to a lot of things with that message. So whether it was about breathing or brain health, that it's just this resting, our lifestyle just has such an impact on. I know I'm now singing your song, but to our overall well-being, but also like our longevity and our vitality over the long term. Like it's just sustainable.
It's so beautiful, and it's amazing what we can accomplish. I mean, I think we really put limitations on ourselves as just humans in general, and it's amazing how powerful breathing and how powerful your mind is, which is one of the main pillars is what you're thinking. So if you can really reframe what you're thinking to a positive notion, and it's a choice. I kind of don't let my patients get away with a lot.
Good.
Yeah, I kind of give them a bit of tough love, because people will say, well, this happened and this happened. Well, that happened, and I'll give you kind of 2 minutes to obviously say it happened, and let's deal with it and let's appreciate it. Let's not suppress it for sure. But at the end of the day, it's shifting it to, well, what can I do with this? What did this teach me? So that thinking piece and really getting, positive is going to take us really far. And I think that even the research is showing that now in quantum physics, that what you're thinking is really, you're putting it out there. And I know that people resonate with that sort of universal, put it out to the universe, or not. But there's a lot of research now coming out about it being physics, and where your energy goes, where your energy flows is where it goes, and that's the path you're going to go down. So really trying to reframe things and set your mindset, I think is, obviously as a naturopath, I talk about what you're eating, and to your point, and everything you're doing, be really intentional about it. Not strict, not always strict, but intentional about what you're eating and you're drinking. But I think we forget about what we're thinking, and it might almost be the most important one out of the 5 pillars that I try and remind people about.
I love it. And I have been in a situation recently, and you can tell me what you think of this, but yeah, with, people resisting change, and I was thinking it's like they're arguing for their suffering. Do you know what I mean? Like arguing for these beliefs that are really holding them back. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to argue with you, but if you put that much energy into creating some new choices and some new changes, it would be amazing what you could do.
Absolutely right. I love that. It's the other thing I talk about is let's say you have 100 units of energy a day. How are you going to spend those? Do you want to spend those fighting, or, sort of constantly licking your wounds? Or do you want to say, hey, what am I going to do about this? What good am I going to do in the world? Where is my purpose? What's my intention in this day, in this week, in this season, in this next 10 years, and in my life? And I think we don't stop to think about that. And when you start to really kind of say, hey, I can make a difference in this world and I can do something, that's where sort of the smaller stuff, and I don't want to say the worries and that kind of thing aren't something to be acknowledged, but that's where those things start to just organically melt away, because there's a bigger purpose that you're driving towards. So, definitely as part of the recharging piece is where the final pillar is, where I really want people to set goals, and that kind of actually just makes the smaller stuff that they might be coming to see me about melt away, because they've now got this bigger purpose and this goal. Where, of course, as we talked about, journaling is also very important, and I know you love yoga, so exercise, and that's where sort of that piece comes in, getting into nature. That's the other big one, right?
So can we go through, I know we've kind of now touched on them, but can we go through these 5 pillars? I was writing them down, so I missed one. There's eating, drinking, resting, recharging. What's the 5th one?
The thinking.
Okay, which we just talked about. Okay, perfect.
So obviously the first one is the eating. So really, balance is great. of course, ideally, I want people to have some protein and fat and some kind of vegetable or fruit at every meal and snack. And different people find that different types of, I'll call them diets for lack of a better term, but whether it's keto or intermittent fasting and or eating every 3 hours, I don't have one that I say you have to do this. I say let's figure out and live intentionally, like as you
Yes,
suggest,
yes.
and live intentionally and see what's working for you. If you feel good intermittent fasting, then let's do intermittent fasting. But let's make sure we do it properly and you're doing it for the right reasons and you're still getting all of your nutrients, all of your micro, macronutrients in there. That's how you work. That's how I work with patients, because for me to say, no, that's not going to work. You need to eat 3 to 4, every 3 to 4 hours. It's actually not going to work for them if they're fighting me on it. It
Yeah.
isn't. I've seen it time and time again. So really what you're eating, and obviously gut health. I mean, I think by now, if anyone who is in this field knows how important, and how we all know how important it is, 70 to 80% of your immune system, as we know, and is very important right now with COVID and just kind of thinking about your health, is in your gut. So for us to really take care of it, and if you have bloating or gas or constipation or diarrhea, we really need to listen to that, which is one of the beautiful reasons why I became a naturopath in the first place, is that I actually like symptoms because they tell me what's going on. Without them,
Yeah.
we wouldn't know. Your body doesn't speak English, so, or
Yeah.
whatever language you speak. It speaks symptoms. So
Yeah.
really listening to that. And even more interesting is that the serotonin is, so your happy chemicals are in your gut as well. So if we don't take care of our gut, mentally and physically, we can start to break down.
And for like the average person who doesn't have necessarily symptoms or specific gut problems, what are ways that they can, stimulate their gut health or optimize it?
So definitely the intuitive eating. So paying attention if you don't feel well. And then my favorite, which I think probably all of my patients know I talk about, is your probiotics, your probiotic food, your probiotics. In fact, usually I like people to take that one in a supplement. I don't like to recommend too many supplements. It's overwhelming, but a good quality probiotic will get you very far. And I really believe is extremely helpful because we have this microbiome in our gut that has its world of its own, and it's trillions of microbiomes that have their own DNA and they're figuring out their own things in there. So by adding the probiotics, we get to put in the really good ones that we know will take over our body and create a really great immune response, and also a great mental response, for lack of a better word, to put us in a good mood and energized and motivated. It's really fascinating information coming out now.
It is fascinating. And can you tell listeners what some probiotic foods might be?
Yes, so probiotics would be either a yogurt, a sauerkraut, or anything that's fermented. Dairy. A lot of people don't have dairy, so looking more at the sauerkraut pieces, the kefir, and all of those are also really great options. But as I mentioned, especially for anyone who's been on medication or who has had a lot of digestive issues, we probably would want to do something a higher therapeutic level, like a very good quality probiotic for your gut health.
Awesome. And what about the next one is drinking?
Drinking. So obviously good quality water is important. Alkaline water is what I love, and something as simple as adding lemon to your water, which is why I named lemon water, because I feel like it's the one thing we can all do to really help our bodies. It really, especially first thing in the morning, warm water, your body absorbs it, helps to support the liver, which is another really key organ to keep us generally healthy. It processes all the toxins that we are exposed to, and balances out your hormones. So almost on all hormonal treatments that I give people, there'll be some kind of liver support, which people don't always initially make the connection on that. So really watching that, and obviously then looking at the things that we maybe shouldn't be drinking or should be drinking. So if it is alcohol, it's moderation, and then looking at liver support if if we are indulging a little bit.
Yes. Yes. And what is the next one thinking?
So the next one was thinking, which we
Okay.
kind of touched on. And
We
as I
did.
said, yeah, the mindset piece is so important. So, ideally, if you did wake up in the morning 5 things you're grateful for and why. So not just a quick thought and not sort of like, okay, my family, my house, my friends, but really thinking it through and going, okay, what am I grateful for today? I'm actually really grateful that I have, this ability to do yoga or whatever it is that connects with you, and really put some, as you're saying, intention into it, and writing that down and why. And that really puts it out, as I mentioned, for the rest of the day, and it can shift anything. So for anyone who's really in a hard place, it may sound, I don't know, sort of too simple or maybe even irritating.
Yeah.
But to really, if you're in a bad place, the best thing you can do is to look for things you're grateful for, and then pay attention and really feel that shift, or do something kind for someone. And again, you'll feel that shift.
Yeah, I mean, I can't keep quiet about this.
Good.
I can't like underscore that enough, because I agree with you. I often hear people, they're like, it's too simple. And I'm like, well, why don't you do it then? Like just give it a try, because it is these simple things that we do consistently, whether it's across any of these pillars, that have a cumulative effect over time. And I don't know if you've seen this in your practice, but what I've found a lot, especially in COVID, but over the years, universally, is that we can get so overwhelmed that we get paralyzed into complete inaction. So we think we need to do the big thing, or we don't do anything at all. And if we just do these small things, like you're saying, this 10 minutes or this gratitude. And like I say, I like what you're saying as well, because I've been talking about this recently, not just a gratitude checklist, but just like really feeling it. Like, why am I grateful for? And how does that feel in your heart? Like it becomes this muscle that we strengthen. And soon it will just become a mindset, like a constant, like a way your mind just works.
It's really beautiful, and maybe I'm not allowed to ask. It's not etiquette in a podcast. So can I ask what you do in the morning, or what things you, because
Sure.
you talk to so many people, and I know how intuitive and how intentional you are. I'm sure you have so much to share. I wish I had a podcast, and then I would interview you.
I will say it's evolved over time. Like when I was in my my intention practice, started in my early recovery from alcoholism. So then it was just simple. Do you know what I mean? I was fragile. I just had a card deck that I used, pulling a card every morning. It just helped me get grounded and think about things in a different way, feel connected to myself. And now I do always set an intention in the morning, and I do take that time in bed to breathe and be grateful for the day. And I do now do like a regular yoga practice every morning, and meditation. Sometimes it's, longer, shorter, perfect, imperfect. But I do find that grounding time in the morning changes my whole day. And it's just really a way of meeting myself. And as you described, deciding like, okay, how do we want to show up today? What's my energy like? And what am I going to do with it?
Oh, that's amazing. You're amazing.
You're amazing.
And I love your cards. I mean, we actually had our osteopath. She had each patient pull one of your cards. Unfortunately, she's one of my only practitioners that is not allowed to practice, has not been allowed to. We've been allowed to be open the whole time. Thank goodness we're considered essential. But osteopaths, unfortunately, have not been. But she used to have every patient pull one of your cards, and it was so effective, and they loved that. So I just want to say thank you. Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. That's what makes me happy, is when people are pulling them and maybe it's resonating, and that makes me very, very happy.
They're such powerful tools, so simple and so powerful, and they keep you off your phone, because I think a lot of things are on our phone right now, so it's hard to get away from them.
Yeah. And to your point, in my morning, it is a struggle for me not to just grab for my phone, but I do find, everything can wait, so if I get grounded and centered first, I handle it all better.
It just sets the stage for the day. Oh, that's a great routine you have. You're an inspiration.
I love it. It feels like a gift to myself. I'm like, if I, had a perfect morning, what would it look like? And
Mm.
that's how it would look. So I'm just like, I really want to make that time, and then everything flows better from there.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And I think that the other piece when I'm reframing things for patients, when they say, what, I do a lot of food sensitivity testing and they say, I have to take out this and this. And I just kind of look at them and go, well, you don't have to do anything. I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't for me. If you reframe it that you're doing this so you can feel a lot better, and just try it, take it out, see what happens. And 90% of the time people feel amazing, but it's sort of like we still feel like there's an authority figure over us that's kind of doing this to us, as opposed to, hey, this is a gift, not, oh, I have to meditate because my naturopath or whoever told me to meditate. It's sort of like, I get to meditate. The word
Yeah.
get is such a wonderful word. Get. I use that in my life when when there's things you maybe don't want to do as much. I get to do this as opposed to, oh, I got to, sit here and meditate for 5 minutes or whatever it is. But reframing things is key, I think.
Yeah. And when you say that, it reminds me, I mean, I have not had a drink now in 9+ years. So,
Congratulations. It's amazing.
thank you. It's the best journey I've ever been on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you just, first of all, with that, learn that your body can actually feel good. I was like, oh, I didn't know it could feel this way. But to your point about, any of your patients or somebody listening who has to take things out, I learned early on that, if I said no to that, I was saying yes to a lot of other things, like yes to my body, yes to my mind, yes to my well-being, yes to my relationships. Like, so when I reframed it for myself that way, it was like the scale just tipped so far over one way that why wouldn't I say no to that?
Amazing. It's so true. Thank you for saying that and sharing that. It's amazing.
And I think the next one was rest, which I have also been a big advocate of because is it underrated? It seems underrated.
It's completely underrated. I know we've had a little more opportunity in the last year to rest, I guess. I mean, to sleep because people are working from home. But I know I've already said this, but it is really thinking about how productive it is to rest. That's when we heal. That's when our body has a chance to rejuvenate. That's when our brain can relax for a minute. So it's very important. And I just don't think we give it enough credit. Not only the sleeping, but just downtime and doing something for yourself, or going for a walk, or, just getting fresh air, or just sitting quietly. It's something we definitely don't do enough, I think, in our society right now, but we're learning. I think things are moving. I think we're learning.
So how do you get your clients to rest? Like, are there some that are just really resistant?
They are. And sometimes I do have to literally prescribe it. And even if it's 10 minutes here or taking a day off, but it's a matter of, and sometimes it's while they're journaling. And so it's a bit of a trick because they still think they're being productive. They think they're doing something.
I love it.
They are being productive, but they're doing something, but I still think they're resting. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge for a lot of people. Sometimes I have to get a little more scientific about it, and how, if you are in your sympathetic nervous system all the time, your cortisol is just pushing itself through your body, and the things that can happen, and a lot of weight gain for that. And sometimes for people that's a little more motivating, where the people that are exercising 5-6 times a day and they're completely stressed out from work, and almost the exercises push them to be even more stressed, that it's actually being counterproductive if their goal is weight loss. So I have to explain those things to them, and then that can be motivating. And I think once you allow yourself and give yourself permission to rest, you appreciate it. It's just that it's become so foreign for many people.
Yeah. And what about the sleep piece? Like, should you be getting 8 hours of sleep? What's good, a good amount of sleep, and maybe what's good sleep hygiene?
So Again, it's different for everybody. Everybody is built very differently, and you can do genetic testing and you can even learn from that what kind of sleep, how much sleep you need. But for the average person, I would say 8 hours, like it's like we all know about. But and if you do, qigong or something, it's 4 hours. But not many people do that. But yeah, I think that again, you have to tune into your own body and kind of really think about how much you need and how good you feel afterwards. Again, back to, really paying attention to yourself and your body. And when you wake up, if you've had 9 hours, is that too much? And then for those who cannot sleep, I highly recommend that they see a naturopath or their medical doctor or whoever else, because sleep is so important. That is when we do our healing. So it can depend. Some people have a hard time falling asleep. Some people wake up in the night and can't fall asleep. And then some people are waking up at 4 a.m. typically because their cortisol levels are not in the right rhythm. So I really recommend people having somebody look at that if they're not sleeping.
Yeah.
Or if they're just not sort of sleeping that well before bed. I think we all know what to do now. Don't go on your phones. Have some chamomile tea if there's no allergies. Make sure your room's a blackout. Do a little meditation. All the things that, we know that we kind of should be doing, and they actually work if you try them for
Yeah.
most people. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing? Like, because sometimes, you just feel like you hear things so often, but again, like we said before, you just have to do them.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes that's my role. Is people, I'll see the same patients that I've seen for over a decade, and they'll come back and they'll have one slight thing. I'll say, "Oh, and how much water are you drinking?" And they'll say, "Oh yeah, water. Well, maybe that's why your energy. We don't have to run a huge panel of blood work for you. Maybe let's try drinking some water, and then come back to me in a week and see how you feel. And it'll be something so simple as they're not drinking water."
It's
So it's just a
amazing.
matter of sometimes it's just the simple things that can really make a huge difference.
And what about the recharging piece?
So the recharging, oh, I love this one. So this is where all of the fun is, where the magic happens, because this is where we get to really kind of get out there and live your life and make a difference. So of course your exercise, and as I mentioned, getting into any kind of nature you possibly can. I know it's a little more challenging for many people with COVID, but just being around nature, it's amazing how it can shift things and clear your mind and give you great ideas. And obviously exercise in moderation, not as I was speaking about people that are increasing their cortisol levels. The meditation can be recharging, yoga, as you're saying, and goal setting. Figure out what fires you up instead of the whole kind of wake up, go to work, feed yourself, feed your kids, whoever, retire and move on to the next, wherever you think you're going. But what fires you up? What do you want to do while you're here on this earth? Set some goals. Get excited. Life's
Yeah.
exciting. There's so much that we can do, and I think we really limit ourselves. So, tools to do that, of course, journaling, as we've already talked about, but also just getting to know yourself. I find people they avoid the fact that they don't know really who they are.
Yeah.
So
I
just
hear that
journaling.
often. Well, two things come to mind. I'm always encouraging people to, like even infuse your day with joy. Like if you're at your computer,
Mm-hmm.
like to your point, have the water with the lemon, or, if there's a tea you love, whatever it is, and turn on your music. Maybe you have a plant, like there's so many ways to just infuse everything with joy. It doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be compartmentalized. And
Mm-hmm.
to what you were just also saying, I've spoken to a lot of people who, they're sort of waiting for that free time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes, they don't actually know what makes them happy, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. And I just say, like experiment, be curious, and
Mm-hmm.
just, like go for a hike, or, when the movie's open or whatever the activity is, and just notice, like, do I actually like this? If it
Mm-hmm.
does, it stays. If it doesn't, it goes. And what everybody else likes may not be what you like, but it's like this getting back to just a curiosity and a sense of
Mm.
wonder and adventure, and noticing what feeling good or feeling joyful feels like for you.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And thank you for bringing that up. And that's what I've really made a commitment in my life, is that I don't care where I am or what I'm doing in the situation. I am going to, be able to embrace it and either have fun with it if I can, or, learn from it if I can, or, heal from it or relax, being, what got me into naturopathic medicine, I had my own health concerns, and then, going to naturopathic college is quite a bit of a grind, and then starting a business, and I have 3 kids, and so it's been stressful. And now I've committed to really enjoying my life, because it's very precious.
Yeah.
It's precious. So I've really made that commitment, and also who you're surrounding yourself with. So that can be recharging or the opposite.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And just really being honest with yourself about that, right? Like, who
Mm-hmm.
does really fill you up, and who maybe there are people you have to see that you just like limit that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And don't go down. Don't go to that vibration. Stay who you are with your integrity. And if they want to be who they are, then they can do that. But you just stay with who you are. But I find it all very exciting, and everything can be an opportunity to learn or grow.
I love that. Before we end, and we still have some time to cover whatever else needs to be covered, but I do want to touch on, you mentioned at the top, like we have heard a lot about anxiety and depression. And I know you
Mm-hmm.
can't, diagnose people on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And these are generalizations. Anybody feeling that way really needs to seek out help. And there's lots of amazing help. But in general terms, I'd love for you to speak to both of those things.
Mm-hmm. So again, something that people should really reach out, because it is normal. I would say it's unbelievable, but probably 80% of people have anxiety, but they don't really talk about it, and it can come in varying levels and for various reasons. But really seeking out help, and as you said, it's very different for everybody. There can be people that simply need to ground themselves. So honestly, just getting your feet in the ground, in the grass, can be very healing to people who really do need medication, whether it's temporary or, for whatever time period. But to really seek out help to whatever level they're at. But then I encourage people to always work on it through speaking with someone or a naturopath, where there are a lot of different supplements and different homeopathics that can be very helpful in terms of just kind of taking the rawness of it off, because it can be people really can suffer, as they know, and struggle with anxiety, especially in something like this. But I think probably one of the biggest pieces of information that has helped me personally, and I think helps a lot of people, is to really focus on the things that you can control and absolutely let go of the things you can not control. Because no matter what the circumstance, no matter who you are, we really don't have control over anything.
Yeah.
So the smaller things, though, that you can control at that time in your life, you focus on those and let go of the ones you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And just really work with that. And I think, but also seeking out help and journaling are 2 very, very helpful tools.
Yeah, and I just feel compelled to add, like, on a personal note, I used to have horrible anxiety and very debilitating panic attacks. And, it's like a vicious cycle. Then you get scared
Mm-hmm.
of them, so it gets worse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a combination of things. But since I stopped drinking and learned breath work, meditation, and also how to approach them, I haven't had one in over 9 years.
Oh, amazing.
So it
It's
is, I'm just
amazing.
saying for people listening, I thought it was impossible. And
Mm-hmm.
it is not to say never get those feelings again. I
Mm-hmm.
do. I can feel, but it's more this fear or excitement. And I just see those feelings in a different way. And I know I don't feel out of control.
That's amazing. It really is amazing. And to your point, I don't want to take away from people that are really struggling with anxiety, because this is, I mean, this is really nuts what we're going through right now with
Yes.
COVID.
Yes.
It really is nuts. But, again, with the simple things, we underestimate how helpful they can be. So, for example, drinking and eating poorly and not sleeping and not exercising. These, the what I kind of talked about, the 5 pillars, or the things that just the basic human needs. If we can keep those in track and then start to really work on our mindset, I think that can, we underestimate how powerful that can be.
I completely agree.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe this is getting a little too philosophical, but I've been doing a lot of work on this. And at the end of the day, everything really does come down to love and fear. So, if anyone is in a state that is really a bad state, it again might be simplifying it, but it really works for a lot of people, including myself.
Yeah.
If you just say, I choose love, and don't try and complicate it, your whole mind and your ego is really going to try and get in there. No, finished, done. I choose love. I don't choose fear. And again, it's amazing the shift that can happen when you go with that direction as opposed to fear, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to one of those two.
I subscribe to that 110%. So yeah, to add to that, it's like, what would love do, or what is the most loving thing that I could do for myself or for another person right now? And it sometimes loving yourself is extracting yourself from a situation, or taking a deep breath, or doing something. Like, it can look so many different ways in so many different situations. There's no one right answer, but it really shifts the way you look at everything.
It's so true. And the other piece to remember for people who are really suffering is that things can change very quickly. So I've seen so many times that people come in, and I've had patients who have come in absolutely in tears, crying. They they can't leave their house because of they have so much fear and anxiety. And I would give them a vitamin IV with tons of nutrients, which I'm not saying that that's the only thing that helps. And then in 2 weeks later, they can be in so much of a better place. And yet, by changing just a few things. So things can change they can change quickly. They don't always change quickly, but they can change quickly. So not to give up hope. That would be my other comment to people.
Such a good reminder, because, and we've seen that, like, things just change on a dime.
It can change. So what we do have is this moment, as we've all kind of learned, and it was Eckhart Tolle that really shifted my mind in that, to minimize depression or anxiety, we can't change the past, and the future hasn't happened. So really focus on the present and really enjoy what you have and appreciate what you have and love what you have, because we don't know, but that's okay. That's okay that we don't know, because we have the present.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things that I learned, like, just to be in the moment. Like, and again, it sounds so simple, but to actually be in the moment, not be in the past or worrying about the future, takes some energy. But when you look around it, like, what is actually happening, it's a very powerful experience. And it's us really being here, right? Like, not just on autopilot or missing life.
It's absolutely true.
So, if people are in Toronto, they can come and see you at your clinic. How could people, like, listening to this from elsewhere, like, access your offerings?
So our website's lemonwaterwellness.ca, and we offer, almost all of our practitioners in all the different modalities do offer virtual appointments. I offer virtual appointments for people all across Ontario. In fact, most of them are virtual now, unless they're coming in for vitamin IVs or physical exams or B12 injections, vitamin D injections. But most appointments are virtual. So anyone who is interested in seeing various different practitioners, I would say go to the website, or we are on Instagram and Facebook, which I think maybe you would be posting wherever.
I will, for sure.
That would be great.
And I just want to say, I just feel like this went by in a blink, as
I know.
it tends to do. But I want to thank you. And before we sign off, maybe there was something that was on your mind that didn't get mentioned, or if you have any, words of inspiration for someone who's listening and interested in making some changes. I'd love for you to share whatever else is on your mind that we didn't get to.
I guess the one thing that I find that really just inspires me, and I almost feel like it's my mission or my purpose, is to really just teach people that life is really limitless. And I think that we put a lot of boundaries around ourselves regarding expectations from other people or things that were set in our minds that are stories. A lot of our lives, we're just telling ourselves stories that are not true. So to really figure out what each person wants to do with their lives or what goals they have. They don't have to be in the background, oh, maybe one day this would happen or I wish that happened. No, I think people should go for their dreams and go for their goals. And so I know that's a bit, a bigger picture of what I do, but I guess what I do, sure, that's the thinking piece. But, by being healthy, it can help get you there by making sure you're physically, mentally, spiritually healthy. So just not to set boundaries on life. The possibilities really are endless.
I think that's amazing advice. Amazing advice. And just, things aren't just for somebody else. And I think we don't always realize even the boundaries that are there, So dream big.
Dream big. Dream big.
Selene, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this. It was wonderful.
Me too. Thank you for listening. May some of the wisdom shared here inspire your most intentional living. For more information about this episode, this podcast, intentional living, and my work in the world, please visit mayyouknowjoy.com. You can also find my May You Know Joy and Seeds of Intention cards there, and my book, Intentional Days. You'll also find details for the Intentional Days membership, where you can gain access to a thriving community of intentional souls and lots of regular inspiration. I've got you covered. Until next time, I wish you great joy and many intentional days.